Hi everyone, welcome to Dataverse Academy. In this video, we'll focus on workspace setup and shortcut creation from ADLS to Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse and setup of configuration table. For Fabric portal, go to app.powerbi.com. Once you reach the Fabric portal, now we need to create a workspace. So I have already created a workspace and I have already posted all the code which I have developed for that particular project. But I'll repeat whatever the steps which I've performed. So here you can see how you can create a workspace. So you need to click on this icon like workspaces and then new workspace, and here you can give the name to your workspace. Okay, so in our case I created it as LQM workspace, then click on apply. Okay, once the workspace is created, you will see here. Okay, so let me click on this. These are all the steps which I have created for this particular project and will explain step by step. So before moving further, let me go to a pad and I'll explain it one by one what exactly we are going to do here. So here you can see we'll create a landing location in ADLS location and we'll name it as LQM landing. Okay. Then we'll create a shortcut in our lakehouse. So in the fabric, once the workspace is created, we'll create a lakehouse with name lakehouse, and inside that we'll create a shortcut which will be a shortcut to this ADLS location. And then we also need to create a archive folder. So once the files is processed to the raw layer, we'll move to the archive location. Okay. And here you can see we'll have one notebook which will move the data from landing location to raw location, and we'll also do the monitoring. So what I'm going to follow will have single lakehouse, and inside that we will have multiple schemas, one for config, one for raw, one for clean, and one for prepare. And inside the config we'll have metadata table which will hold the information of all the feeds which we are going to insert from the landing to our fabric. And then we have data quality checks. Whatever the data quality checks we are going to apply, we'll put inside this table. Then we have a monitoring table. So all the logs which are going to be generated will be put in monitoring table. And then like file to raw, then we'll have raw to clean layer that can be full load or that can be an incremental load. And we'll do the monitoring and also we'll apply data quality checks. And for clean to prepare layer, we'll create views and we'll call those views within a notebook to load the data to the prepare layer as we discussed earlier. And then we'll build the report on top of that. Before that, we'll build a semantic model. Now let's move to the Fabric portal. So here you can see I have created a lakehouse. So how you can create a lakehouse? Just click on new item, then search for lakehouse and click on it. And you need to enable this because the schema creation within the same lakehouse is in preview, and in our project we are creating multiple schemas within the same lakehouse. So you need to click on this and give the name to your lakehouse. So I have created with this name, so try to create with the same name, LQM lakehouse, and then you can click on create. So right now I'm canceling it as I already have the lakehouse. Once your lakehouse is created, open your lakehouse. And now what we'll do, we'll create a shortcut to our ADLS location. So let's suppose if you don't have the Azure account for that particular project, what you can do, you can create a subfolder with LQM landing name. Okay. If you already have the Azure account, then I suggest you to create the storage account in Azure and inside that create a container. So let me quickly show you. So here you can see I have created this storage account, and I have created this container inside this with this LQM lending. We will create a shortcut to this container. So for that, you need to click on this ellipse, then click on new shortcut. Okay, then click on Azure Data Lake Gen 2, and here if you already have a connection, you can choose the connection, then you need to create a new connection. So there are two ways to do it, either from here. So here you need to provide the full path to that uh, container, and then you will be able to create a connection. And another way is you need to go to the manage connection. See this setting button, and here manage connection and gateway. So I've already created this connection to this storage account, and I'll quickly show you how you can create a connection. So click on new and then cloud, and you can give name to your connection. So I'll give LQM lending, and connection type it will be Azure Data Lake Gen 2 Data Lake Storage, and it will be Gen 2. And here we need to provide the server name. Here we will pass the container name. So go to your Azure portal and then go to the endpoints, and here you can see this location. Copy it and go to the Fabric portal, paste it here, and full path. So here we need to provide the container path, so which is LQM lending, and here you need to choose the authentication. So in my case I'm choosing key. You can choose any one of them. So the preferred one is either workspace identity or service principal. So but for now I'm choosing key. Go to the Azure portal, and here you can see inside security and networking access keys, and you can copy any key like either key 1 or key 2. Okay, so I'll copy this key 1, then go to Fabric portal and paste it here, and then click on create, and we can test our connection. Just click on status, you can see it's online. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll delete this because I already have the connection to that container, and I'll use that particular connection. So let me check the status of it, and it's also online. Now from this, we'll choose the existing connection, which is this one, and click on next, then select it, and then click on next, then click on create. So here you can see our shortcut is created to our container, and then we'll create one more folder for archive, which is LQM archive. Now we'll go to our workspace, and here you can see I have created this particular folder. How you can create a folder? So you can see from here new folder and just give the name to your folder. I have given the config name, so you can give the same name, and inside that I have like metadata config and DQ rules config and pipeline monitoring. So I'll explain one by one. So first let me open the metadata config. So how you can create a notebook, let me go to the workspace first, and then I'll show you. To create a notebook inside the same folder, the workspace, and inside this folder, then new item and search for notebook. Then click on notebook, and here you can give any name to your notebook. Once the notebook is created, you need to attach that particular notebook to the Lakehouse. Click on add data items, existing data sources, and this is our Lakehouse which we have created. So select it and then click on connect. Now our notebook is connected to this particular Lakehouse. So I've already created multiple notebooks. So what I'll do, I'll just cancel this, and we'll go to the main notebook which I've created for metadata config. So here I'll explain one by one. So right now you can see inside the Lakehouse, like which I've already attached to my notebook, I don't have any tables. I just have these two folders. So first we need to create config schema so that we can create a config table, logging table, which is monitoring table, and DQ table. And inside these three schemas, raw schema will have a raw table, clean schema will have our clean tables, and prepare schema will have our final tables. So here I'm creating a metadata table inside a config schema, and these are the columns which I have created inside this. One is system, another one is tier, table name, key name, and value. So what is this system? So this is the source from which you are trying to get the data. So in our case, we have Coupa. Okay. And what is this tier? So this tier will be raw, clean, and prepare. So it can have only these three values. And what is this table name? So what name you want to give to your table while it is going to be created in the raw layer, clean layer, prepare layer. So we have multiple files in our case. So let me show you the files first, and then we'll move further for creating the metadata. Here you can see these are the files which we are going to read in our project: customer, entity, item, location, subsidiary, transaction, transaction accounting line, transaction line, and vendor. So this one contains transaction information, and one transaction can have multiple lines. So which will be come inside this file, and it will contain vendor information, and this one contain account information, which transaction is associated to which account. And here for a particular company will have multiple subsidiaries, so that will hold that particular information, and it will contain the branches, or you can say locations of those multiple entities or multiple subsidiaries. And then we will have entity information, which is, you can say, property information. Then we have item information, and it will contain customer information. So now we will see what are the things which we need to enter in our metadata table. Okay, so we'll do the entry for raw, clean, and prepared tables. So here you can see, first thing, this is the system, this is the tier, and this is the table name which is going to be created in the, you can say, in your raw layer, or you can say it's file name. And what is the source type? So our source type is file type. Okay, so type, this is key, and this is value. So type, what is the type? Source type is file. Now here you can see, then we have again key and value. So what is the file name? Which will be transaction, that will insert the data to a transaction table. Then what is the format of the file? It's CSV file. And what is the delimiter? We have comma separator. Okay, so why I have this slash? Because if you don't provide it, it's going to give you an error while reading the data from this particular key. So it will skip this tab, and will I'll show you when I'm going to insert the data how it will look like. Then we have raw schema. So how the raw table will look like? So every column in the raw table will be a string type. Why? Because we'll just keep on appending the data in a raw layer, and in case, let's suppose, if I have any integer type or date type, and the format is not coming in a proper format, or if a date of an integer column having the string data, so it can handle that, because we will apply the DQ checks between raw to clean layer, okay, not at the raw layer. So this is the schema which I have created for transaction table: due date, transaction ID, transaction type, sales rep ID, entity ID, create date, last modified date. So let me show you the columns which we have in our transaction table. So here you can see this is my transaction file, and I'll quickly show you uh, the data inside this file. You can see due date, transaction ID. So for all the columns, I've created that schema. Okay, I'll close this and we'll go to our Fabric portal. And here you can see this is the data struct field. Okay, and this is column name, data type, and nullable. All the columns are nullable as true. Okay, so that we'll accept the null values also. Now for the clean layer, here you can see I'm just adding those columns, like for the clean schema, I'm adding only those columns which are needs to be converted from string to either integer or to date. Okay, if the column is a string in the raw layer and it is going to be string in the clean layer itself, then we don't need to specify this particular condition. So here you can see due date needs to be converted to date, transaction date needs to be converted to date, create date also, modified date, transaction ID needed to convert it to int, same for sales rep ID and entity ID. Okay, so if you have more column you can add it here, but for the column which are going to be string in raw and string in clean, then you don't need to add it here. Okay, now these are some keys which are what is the load type, or you can say load frequency. It is going to be load type, sorry, not load frequency. So it is going to be incremental. Then we have key column. So in our data set, transaction ID is the key column, which is going to be helpful in case of upshard operation when we are going to load the data from raw to clean layer. What is this watermark column and watermark value? I'll give an example. So in case of incremental, what we generally do, let's suppose in the source system you have ID and name, and I'm just taking an example like loaded, and then you have like 1 2 and 3 and A, B and C. So it's of 1st January record. I'm just taking an example. So we'll first time load the data into a table. Okay, and then we have our metadata table which holds the information. And also what we did, we took this column as our watermark column, load date, and for the first time watermark value will be 0101. Okay, 1st of January 1900, and we'll read the data from source system which is greater than this value. So all the records, all three records will come, right? 1 2 3 A, B, and C, and same date, 1st Jan, 1st Jan, and 1st Jan. Now let's suppose on the next day there is an update in the record, change to, and it's of 2nd January. And also one more thing, once the load is done to the target system, we'll update this one with the maximum value of that particular load, maximum loaded value of the particular load. So we can see it's of 1st January. Okay, I'm just not writing year here. You can consider 2025. Now for 2nd Jan, new record is D, 2nd Jan, and we'll pick only those records which are greater than this value. So these two are greater than, right? And now what we'll do the upshot here based on ID. So this is our ID column. So we'll update this one, sorry, this one to AA, and loaded will be updated to 2nd Jan, and new record will be 2nd Jan. Now again we need to find out the maximum load date which is 2nd January. So we'll update to 2nd. Okay, so this is the use of watermark column and watermark value, and this is all incremental load. Okay, and now let me tell you about full load. So in full load I'll take same example. Okay, doesn't matter if you have 8 column or any other column or any other. Okay, so on the first day, uh, same records I'll take. Okay, 3 first gen. Then we'll load this data as it is, 3 records, and let's suppose next day uh, we received like update here, which is and sorry, uh, yeah, maybe next day you have like the data like this, and then you have new record. So 2nd January. So what we'll do, whatever the record you have in the target system, we'll just truncate those records or delete those records, all the records, and then we'll take whole record or all records from the source system and dump it here. I mean 4 records. And the next time, let's suppose those in the source system, you don't have this particular ID. This has been deleted, and then you have this A, B, C, D, E, and surgeon. So you have those 4 records. So what we'll do, we'll delete those 4 records, whatever we have in the target system, and we'll load those new 4 records. So it's just like truncate and load. Whatever is there in the target, just delete them and load whatever you have in the source system. So that we call it as full load. So there is no concept of watermark column, watermark value, or even the ID column in case of full load. Okay. Now we'll move to the Fabric portal. So here you can see I have watermark column, which is system file stamp watermark value by default. Then this is for prepare layer. So if you remember, for prepare layer, we are going to combine our transaction line, transaction and transaction accounting line using the join condition. So for prepare layer, we will have a single entry for these 3 tables. So I'm giving name it as transaction, the combination of all these 3 tables, and load type will be incremental. What are the key columns? Transaction ID and transaction line ID. Okay, we'll discuss that in future about the prepare layer. Then we have last modified date, on the basis of which we'll decide what is the incremental data. But here we are deciding based on file timestamp. So I'll give an example when we are going to load the data. Now here you can see for transaction line, same thing, like source system is file type, what is the file name, transaction line, format, raw schema. Okay, so these are the columns which we have. Then for clean schema, what are the columns we are going to change from string to int or from string to date time. Then load type, then we have key column, transaction ID and transaction line ID, and then same watermark and watermark value. So here you can see we don't have prepare layer for transaction line. Why? Because we have already created the prepare part for transaction, which is the combination of transaction, transaction line table, and accounting. Then we have customer, which is the full load. Okay, so same file name, format, raw schema. Then these are the 2 columns which we have in a table, and then we are converting these 2 columns. So only the ID, no need to convert the string, which is our name. Okay, then it's a full load. Okay, and then for, so this is the clean layer. Okay, and this is the raw layer, and this is the prepare layer. So in the prepare layer, we are going to load as it is. So there is no required for other key. Same for transaction line. Okay, and then same for subsidiary, because transaction line is also the you can say full load. So we just have raw and clean, because that is going to be combined in transaction table in prepare layer. Then we have subsidiary, raw, clean, and prepare. Location, raw, clean, and prepare. Same for item, same for entity, same for vendor. So this is what we have inserted into our metadata table. So what I'll do, I'll quickly run this code. It will create the schemas, and I'll show you here. Right now we have just dbu. Once it ran, it will create 4 schemas. Now let me just refresh this. Here you can see, and we'll create our config table in metadata table into a config schema. And let me quickly refresh it. You can see, and then what we'll do, we'll just run this. And this notebook is a one-time load. Either you run it in a test environment or production environment, it is going to be only runs once. Okay. And this is the query which I've designed kind of to fetch the information. So I'll quickly show you what exactly it is doing. It is taking the key name and what are the value for those particular key names. So key name will be our column name and then value. So I'll take it for each tire one by one. So I'm just quickly showing you like raw or clean. I'm just showing you clean layer only. So you can see system, Coupa, table name. These are all the table names, and these are types. So in clean layer we don't have any type. We don't have file name. We don't have file format because that is in a raw layer, and we don't have raw schema. And here you can see clean schema, load type. So if I add a condition here like this, raw and clean, and now if I run this, you will see the difference. Now you can see table name. So our source file type is file, and which is file name from which we are going to read the data, format, delimiter. So now you can see that slash has been skipped, right? If I don't provide the slash, it will throw me an error. So that was the reason. Then we have raw schema. So you can see this raw schema designed like this. Then we have a clean schema, load type, key column, watermark. Okay. So these two tables, transaction table and transaction value is incremental. Other than that, all are full. And about this merge script, we'll show you what is the use of this. We'll show you in future. Okay. So no need to be worry about this one. So this is how our metadata is designed. Now what we'll do, we'll design our DQ table and we'll quickly show you. So this is the DQ table which we have designed. So this is the structure of the DQ table, and this is our DQ table name, DQ underscore rules underscore config. Same system and tier table name. Okay. And system will be Coupa, tier raw, clean or prepare. So we'll have only on clean layer. So there will be no DQ check at the raw layer or the prepare layer. I'm applying all the DQ checks at the clean layer. Then we'll assign the ID to each rule and on which column you want to apply the data quality checks and what type of checks we have. Then I'll show you what's the meaning of this check parameter when I'm going to show you the value. Then whether it's going to be nullable or not, what is the expected type, what is the severity, whether it's we are going to block it or not. Then that rule is going to be active or inactive. You can handle that from your DQ rule table. Then this is created and modified when that rule has been created and when it has been modified. So these are four rules which we are going to be put on our transaction table only. You can put on multiple tables, but for now I'm just putting on my transaction table only. So our first rule is on due date, which is like null type check. If it is null, then block it or move it to quarantine table. That second rule is on subsidiary ID. The ID range like subsidiary should be 1 to 6. If you are getting data, let's suppose I have 7 ID like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 ID is also there. So that is going to be rejected. Then we have transaction date. If it's not date type, then we will move it to the quarantine table, that particular record. Then we are applying on transaction type. So we have multiple transaction type. So transaction type should be general, check, vendor bill, or vendor credit, or customer invoice. If we have transaction type other than that, we'll move those records to quarantine table. So these are the few data quality checks we are applying. One is null check, one is range check, and one is type check, and one is domain. Domain check is basically for checking for multiple values. System tier clean table name, rule ID. You can give unique rule ID and column name. Check type. Is it going to be null, range, type, or email? Okay. So this was email was the column. Okay. Format. So that is going to be the format. And then what is the check parameter? Then check parameter in case of this is 126 date, and these are different values. In case of null level, it is going to be blank because we are just checking whether the column has null values or not. So null level, yeah, we are going to make this column as null level as false. It should not be nullable. These columns can be nullable. Okay. So this is all about your data quality checks rule table. So I'll just quickly create it and we'll run this. Our DQ table has been created successfully and I can quickly show you, and data is also inserted. So we'll go here and refresh it. You can see both the table has been created. Now we'll move to the pipeline monitoring table. What exactly the structure of our pipeline monitoring table? So let me just close both the notebooks. Now I'll go to my workspace and then we'll open pipeline monitoring notebook. Remember one thing, all the notebooks should be attached to your Lakehouse. And here we'll just create the structure of our pipeline monitoring table that is going to be created in the config schema. So this is DQ issue counts and like how many records are actually moved to the quarantine table after getting filled by those data quality checks. Then how much duration a pipeline has taken, like start time and end time. Okay, between start time and end time, and that will be in seconds. And end time, this is error message. Let's suppose if your pipeline got failed or a notebook got fail in between, you'll see the message here. And layer from and layer to for like raw to clean, clean to prepare, or file to raw. So this will contain, like let's suppose if you are loading the data from raw file to raw, so our from will be file and target will be raw. Okay, then will this will contain our pipeline name, and this is how many records read it from the source and how many records has been written to the target. Then this will contain the remark. So data load has been done to this particular table, no data load has been done, so something like that. Then we have run ID. So it's like kind of a unique ID will be generated for each run. So we'll capture that. And then we have start time, and when it got started, then status fail complete, like that. And then system, it will be Coupa, then it's your table. Okay, so I'll quickly run this. Once our pipeline monitoring table is created, we'll move to the load part, which is going to be like first file to raw table. So our table has been created. Let me quickly show you. Here you can see it. Let me close this notebook. And now we'll move to the first part, which is creating a notebook, which will move the data from file section to raw. That's it in this video. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. And in case of any suggestion on improvement or in case of any doubt, please comment.